Hello, friends! Today I will tell you about the animated movie The Boss Baby 2. Tim Templeton had grown up, started a family, and became a stay-at-home dad. He married a woman named Carol, and she gave him two wonderful daughters, the older Tabitha and the younger Tina. Tim was a model father. He never stopped imagining and turned even the most ordinary actions into exciting adventures. Unlike Tim, Ted had climbed much higher on the social ladder. He had become a successful businessman, but because of his work, he and his brother hardly ever saw each other anymore. Old grudges that had built up over the years also played their part. For a while, Tim tried to re-establish contact with him, but Ted didn't answer his calls and never came to visit when invited. Despite his brother's success, Tim didn't want to change his life. He was a happy family man who spent his days playing with his daughters while Carol earned the money. But there was a problem. Tabitha was growing up, and she no longer needed bedtime kisses or other sweet little gestures from her dad. She wanted to be as successful and influential as her Uncle Ted. This upset Tim. He went up to the attic and found his old wizard alarm clock in a box. It spoke to him, and while they were discussing the situation with Tabitha, a strange noise came from Tina's room. Tim ran to check and saw a toy phone on the crib. He then realized that his younger daughter also worked for Baby Corp. Tina confirmed his suspicions. She had been sent on a top-secret, super important mission, and Tim could be useful to her. He had to invite Ted over for the New Year holidays, but Tim refused to do so. However, Tina had anticipated this, so she recorded her conversation with her dad and edited it into a message for Uncle Ted. In this message, Tim supposedly spoke about a danger threatening his daughter. Hearing this, Ted immediately canceled all his meetings and flew to the Templeton's house in a helicopter. But it turned out the message was fake. Tim pretended he had recorded it by accident. Then he took his brother into another room and told him that Tina also worked for Baby Corp. Ted didn't believe it at first, but then the little girl popped pacifiers into both their mouths, and all three of them were transported to the Baby Corp office. Here, Tina explained the danger threatening the whole world. The principal of Tabitha's school was planning something bad against adults. Owen Armstrong intended to hand over control to children and force their parents to serve them. This could not be allowed. So Tina proposed that her father and uncle infiltrate Armstrong's school and find out his evil plans. There was just one hitch: only children were allowed in. But Tina had a solution. She had been given a special formula that could turn adults into toddlers for 48 hours. This way, Tim and Ted could become young again and discover Armstrong's scheme. They eagerly drank the potion, becoming younger before their eyes. But just then, Carol and Tabitha came home, so the brothers had to hide from them. While Carol wasn't looking, they pretended to be going on a fishing trip, but instead prepared to infiltrate Tabitha's school. Tina gave Ted a listening device, and Tim got a flower with a camera. They needed to plant these in the principal's office when he stepped out. Usually, Armstrong left his office at 11:15 a.m. After Tina's briefing, Tim took his brother up to the attic to sleep. He had a terrible nightmare that he was a bad father. Then he woke up and realized they had missed the school bus. Carol had already driven Tabitha to school, so the Templeton brothers had to ride a pony to get there. Ted had bought this expensive little horse, but Tim and the pony didn't get along at all. On the way, Tim got pretty roughed up. Because of their reckless riding, the Templeton brothers ended up destroying half the town, creating a huge snowball that almost crushed their family. Carol, Tabitha, and Tina were in a car when the snowball rolled toward them, but Tina spotted it in time and pulled the handbrake to save them. Ted and Tim also landed safely, but they got a strong whiff of snow for their trouble. Near the school, the brothers lured some toddlers into the bushes to take their clothes. The kids didn't mind they got the money Ted used to bribe them. Tim sent his younger brother to the yellow group, where the children mostly drooled and messed around, while he went to the blue group, where Tabitha studied. There was also a boy named Nathan, who liked to annoy everyone, especially Tabitha. But she didn't pay much attention to his jokes. Then class began, and Tabitha outshone everyone, especially Nathan. She answered all the teacher's questions and left the others far behind. Ted, meanwhile, got to know his rowdy classmates and began planning an escape. Time to plant the spy gadgets in the principal's office was running out, so they had to hurry. Tim remembered this and asked to go to the bathroom, but it was in a separate room in another class. He decided to improvise. Thinking that misbehaving would get him sent to the principal, he started acting like a troublemaker. But instead of the office, he was put in a relaxation room. There, Tim dozed off and missed all the action. His brother, meanwhile, used glue to escape from daycare and headed for the target location. He made it to the office with no problem, but there he met Armstrong himself. It turned out Armstrong had noticed Ted's clever escape and wanted to recruit him for more important work. Armstrong was a genius child who had built himself a robotic adult body. He had recently run away from home and started living on his own, pretending to be grown-up. He founded the school and began recruiting other gifted kids like himself. Armstrong planned to use them for a children's revolution. The kids had written special code for him, which he built into an app. When adults used it, it would hypnotize them into obeying any order from Armstrong. He needed a clever child like Ted. Ted agreed to work with the mad kid in the adult body. At recess, he met with Tim and accused him of failing to help with the bugging. They argued, and Tim walked away. Near the music room, Tim saw Tabitha preparing for a performance in front of many adults. She was shy and couldn't sing properly, so Nathan made fun of her. He didn't kick her out because he wanted her to embarrass herself. Hearing this, Tim offered to help her practice. At that moment, his parents came to visit their granddaughters. They thought Tim looked familiar, but didn't dwell on it. At dinner, it turned out everyone thought Tim was just a dreamer who could lose track of time and forget about Tabitha's concert. She wanted so badly to impress her dad, so he'd be proud of her. When Tabitha showed her new friend her room, Tim helped her open up and sing as if she'd been doing it her whole life. Over dinner, the Templeton brothers realized that time and distance had almost erased their bond, though they had once promised always to stick together. Now they had a chance to fix that, but still planned to act separately. Tina saw this and decided to unite them through their mission. She suggested working as a team. To stop Armstrong, they needed to sneak backstage during the concert and sabotage his plan. Ted's friends from the yellow group would take care of Nathan, allowing Tim to take his place in the show. Tina would coordinate the operation from the audience. She gave Tim and Ted special communicators that translated baby babble into clear speech. That way, adults wouldn't know Tina could talk, but her dad and uncle would understand her. Ted's job was to stay close to Armstrong so that at the right moment, he could plant a device in the robotic suit. Then Tina could take control and expose Armstrong's true nature. Everything went smoothly at first. In the director's box, Ted learned that the revolution had already begun. As soon as Tabitha went on stage and started singing, the audience would take pictures. That would trigger Armstrong's app, turning adults into obedient zombies. The principal told Ted about this because he was sure Ted couldn't stop him. Armstrong also figured out that Ted and Tim were brothers who had come to foil his plans. He ordered his tiny ninja kids to capture them and lock them in a music bubble. Water began to fill the bubble, and the brothers faced a grim fate. Meanwhile, Tabitha began to sing beautifully, and adults started taking pictures, falling under Armstrong's hypnosis. Inside the bubble, Tim and Ted had a heart-to-heart talk, admitting they regretted their falling out, envied each other, and wanted to spend more time together. When Tabitha finished singing, she realized her dad hadn't come to her performance. Heartbroken, she ran off stage in tears. At that moment, Ted called for his pony, which broke down the door and saved them. Tina then told her sister she worked for Baby Corp and their father had been there all along, but was now in danger. She also said Armstrong had started the countdown for his app to work worldwide. To stop him, they needed to shut down the server. Tina used a spare robotic suit to fight him. Tim, Ted, and Tabitha also tried to destroy the server but failed. They decided to trigger the fire alarm to flood the server room, but that didn't work either. In desperation, Tabitha mixed Armstrong's soda with his own Mentos, causing foam to flood the room. The server shut down, and the adult hypnosis stopped. Tim and Ted returned to adulthood, each going back to their normal lives. But Ted still found time to visit his brother for the holidays. When he arrived, the whole family went outside to play in the snow. After the mission, Tina admitted that her task had not only been to stop the genius kid but also to bring the Templeton brothers back together. She succeeded in both. As for Principal Armstrong, he was fine. He abandoned his evil plans, stopped eating white powder by the kilo, and returned to his parents, who were very happy to see him.